Welcome back. Well, we've got Dr. Adetokunbo Pearse, who joins us here in our studios in Lagos. He is a former Director General, Jonathan Sambo, Lagos Independent Presidential Campaign Organization for 2015. He also holds many caps within the party. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, let's start off by getting your thoughts on the conversation that just occurred with the previous segment, listening to both parties making their case from the points of law and political parties. I imagine some of those might have tickled your fancy, especially being an English scholar and lecturer yourself.
Well, the debate today between the two gentlemen made it clearer to me where the problem really is. I think that some politicians who are in the National Assembly now have benefited from the confusion that we have in our electoral system. But the Chief Okoye, who is from a rather smaller party and has been a victim of this convoluted system, understands what really needs to be done, which is to simplify the process. If INEC has control over every level of the voting and collation, then there should be no reason why results from the ward, which is really where the election has taken place. Election has not taken place anywhere else except in the ward, the voting polls. From there, the results should be transmitted directly to the final destination. Simple as that. And that's the end of the result. By the way, that's the way it's done in the US. At least I know that system. And by the way, you know, in this country, over the years, we've watched Ghana grow. Ghana changed so many things about its elections. And we should follow suit. Change these laws that do not work for the community, for the population. So the results should be tabulated from the ward. As people vote, the result should go straight electronically to its final destination. That's what I think. Whatever we need to do, whatever laws we have to put in place to make this happen, we must do it so that we can have real results that are free of manipulation.
Do you think the political class, especially members of the National Assembly, who came into power through this same process that we're talking about, do you think they have a misunderstanding of the situation on ground, or what you have described now? Do you think there is a misunderstanding, or that the whole thing is just deliberate, we like it the way it is?
I think it's probably both. In some cases, I hate to believe that all of them in the National Assembly are crooked, because it is only a crooked politician that will enjoy or approve of the way we run things now. So I think that we should continue with the conversation. You know, it's not enough to say that the members of the National Assembly benefit from corrupt practices and they're there, they won't change it. We must make them change. We must continue to talk about this. We will continue to insist. And the media has been doing a fantastic job promoting these views about a better governance.
You know, it's interesting that, during the debate along these lines in the National Assembly, both chambers of the House, it would seem that to a large extent there is a perception that a good number of the decisions taken along this line were along party lines. Do you think the political parties themselves should have a conference on this matter so that there is a better understanding in the interest of the nation, not in the interest of the party?
Everything they do in the National Assembly should be in the nation, not in interest of the party. But it is the process of developing our democracy. You know, in every National Assembly, everywhere in the world, they have these arguments, and they usually go on party lines. But you must not do it to an extreme. There are times when you could go on party lines and it's not too destructive. This issue of proper voting, proper tabulation, getting proper legitimate results should not be along party lines. Nobody benefits. Nobody in the long run. Nobody benefits.
I think it's more also because the party line toga might just be a facade. It's about their interests above all else. So interests may have superseded some of those things we could refer to as party lines. But speaking about the ward, your party had the ward congress in some states, and then some arguments about parallel congresses and challenges, huge implications if not handled properly. But while talking to us about those parallel congresses, so before you do that, could you also start by letting us know, because I mean, lots of people want to also follow the process and understand why there is so much tussle. Why is the ward very important before you then talk about the questions about the parallel congresses?
Well, the ward is where you have the polling booths. The ward is where you have the voters. The ward that's where you have the election. Everything begins and ends in the ward. It is the ward result they take to the local government, from the local government to the state. Everything comes from the ward. That's why it's so important. And you know the power of the ward chairman now. We've all seen it, what happened to Oshomole, and what happened to our own good man, Secondus. So you understand that everything should begin from the ward. That's where your name is on the ward register. Whoever you are, even if you're the president of the Federal Republic, you must be registered in your ward. And that's where you vote. So the ward is key. It's the foundation.
In other words, if anyone wants to get into the space, they need to understand the importance and the power of starting from the ward. That's like the fundamental basis, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you respect the word and you build the word, then you build your party. Part of the reasons why we have had problems in Lagos State PDP is because the wards have been neglected too much, for too long. So the word is key, and that is the foundation, as I said. It's like building a building. You want to construct a building, and you didn't lay proper foundation.
Now, why was, because I mean, many would have thought, well, I haven't seen, or at least playing opposition politics now, the party might have said, okay, look, we need to get this right. We cannot afford to miss an opportunity which stares us in the face. And so not many will expect that there will be any such word as parallel congresses holding in different states for this ward congresses. So with all of this going on, don't you see that as potential, bananas peel for the party if this is not handled right?
Well, politicians are called here today, gone tomorrow gladiators. They are always fighting. So when you see us at our world congresses, we know that once you get it right in the world, power in the world is very key. So everybody wants to be involved. In the case of the PDP, it's a very rigorous and very vibrant competition. But trust me, we didn't have parallel congresses in Lagos State PDP. There were people who wanted to have parallel, but it went to no avail because the system is very clear. Only the ward chairman can tell you the venue for the ward congress. So if a ward chairman chooses a venue and announces it at the General Assembly, which we did, then the Congress is going to be held in that ward. So parallel Congress in another ward, or rather in another venue, is null and void. So the officers from National came and they knew where to go. They go to where they know has been announced before now and has been registered and has been the tradition. Go to that location. Whatever is happening there is the election. And they collect the forms from there, the results from there, and they go back to Abuja. So we didn't have, if you want to see parallel Congress, go to APC and see the war. Right now, the party is divided along different groups. We don't have that. Chief Bodejo did not have a World Congress somewhere, and Mrs. Mana, Dr. Gukelu have somewhere else. That didn't happen in PDP.
Well, Dr. Pearse, I saw this coming naturally, and this is something you hear from time to time. But I mean, some reference what played out in your state. In fact, former member of the House of Representatives saying that there were parallels, parallel elections, that is, as it were, Osun State as well. There was division. So those are clear, I mean, divisions and parallel elections in the PDP, which you say does not have that.
No, well, you see, what I mean is this. Those parallels cannot stand because they are illegal, because we have clear guidelines as to how we do our elections. A lot of people who are not happy. For instance, in my own ward, we had something similar. Let me tell you what happened in my ward. I wanted the current ward chairman to return to have a second term in office. Some other leaders in the ward did not want him. They want somebody else. And we had done we went through the process of aligning different positions, you know, ward secretary, ward youth leader, ward woman leader, and so on. We had all that. There was nobody challenging anybody. But when it came to the chairman, they said they don't want this chairman. Some people said they're going to run against him. So they were actually meeting in a venue that I had provided. So I told them, I said, okay, we have agreement on everything. We are going to go to Congress for chairman. Even though that's the person I want, since you say you're challenging him and you're not backing down, let's go to the Congress, right? So the chairman now, who has announced the venue of the Congress a week before, a venue where they normally, by the way, the venue for the Congresses in PDP is usually where they have their ward meetings. You understand? So when the day of the Congress came, the ward chairman went to the venue where they normally have meetings, where he has announced already a week before at the assembly of the local government, in front of everybody, the venue is going to be this place. So he went there. So people went there to vote. Now, the parallel happened. Somebody who did not want that chairman went to another venue to hold a parallel Congress.
That takes me to my next point.
So the
Dr.
Congress that he went there, nobody could collect results from him.
Okay, so and that takes me to my next point, like I said. So we had the Southwest Congress, the PDP Congress, which I believe you were a part of as well earlier in the year. And we saw some of the issues that came out. Mr. Lafeso saying that, well, this was not free and fair. It was meant to be secret ballots. We saw people joining tables together, essentially just marring the whole process. So that happened. And you expect that, I mean, lessons will have been learned from that one. Moving, pardon me, just let me land on that question, pardon me. So, I mean, we expect that lessons will have been learned. And this is not just for the PDP alone, but let's just restrict this to the PDP because clearly you're a member of the PDP. So the World Congresses came and we've just seen parallels. And it appears to me as though, you know, the PDP is carrying on as though they're unaware of the climb in the country right now, overheating the politics sort of. I mean, you expect that the political party will set the tone of what they expect to happen in the larger society. I mean, you understand what's happening in the country. So why is it that political parties, the PDP, are carrying on as though they're not aware of the climb we're in right now? I
beg to disagree that we are carrying on as if we're not aware.
So why do we have the parallels and the rancors?
Politicians will always fight over positions. For many years, people would think that in the US, oh, they have democracy. Now you know with Donald Trump that there can be war and chaos. That is democracy. People can express themselves. The gentleman you referred to at the Southwest Congress lost the election, narrowly, by the way. And then he said his thing was not properly organized. I was there. The day before the Congress, immediately after the Southwest Congress, Fayose announced to the world that this was a great Congress. 2 days after, he came back and said it was not a good Congress. So that is just talk. And that's the reason why. Because that Congress was legal, legitimate, and well organized, and because Fayose was just lying about what happened, he said they attacked him, the nose cow on him. He came through, came to the podium, spoke heavily, nicely, cordially, went to the house, he went now and announced something else. So that's the point. People can say anything they want to say. We have vibrant congresses in PDP. The reason why,
individuals.
The reason why today there is no challenge as to who is the Southwest chairman of our party is because it was a legitimate Congress. It was fully accepted. That's a different thing from what's happening. If you want to know where there's problem, it is not in the PDP. We are having the normal, rigorous competition that you have. It will be like hell, but at the end of it, that's where you got to see the difference. And the difference is what happened when we concluded our Southwest Congress. In spite of all the challenges, everybody accepted it because it was legally done. The same thing is going to happen to the congresses we had last Saturday.
That having parallel congresses, I mean, you saw what happened before the Southwest Congress, the videos that were circulating, certain supporters saying that they were going to harm the other person, talking about coughing and the rest. I mean, are you saying essentially that that's the brand of politics that we should now come to expect and just be comfortable with?
That is politics, my friend, the world over.
That's not politics the world over, Dr. Pearse.
Everywhere.
Like where,
That is the way it works.
Like where, please?
Like in the United States.
Oh, you have those kind of videos, people promising harm, parallel elections.
Are they not? Did you not hear people promising to kill the vice president in America?
As parallel elections too.
Yes.
Oh,
everybody. Look, listen. All that you must look at is this. People will complain. It's like saying, I don't agree with what happened here. Good. But you have to go to arbitration. Let us see whether your claim is right. I just told you what happened in my own local government, in my own ward.
Dr. Pearse,
yes.
The fact that, the laws are clear, the procedures are clear according to what the law says, yet politicians are pushing for litigations. That is one of the things that's made people question the electoral process in its entirety. That's why many people, at the end of the day, do not want to vote. That's why the number of voters continue to decrease over the years, simply because, just as you say, politicians are only waiting not for the votes to count, but for the litigations that will follow. That's the kind of process that I don't think you want us to continue. You spoke earlier that we should follow the law and follow the processes so that we do not have the kind of mishmash elections that we do not want.
Look, let me use the Southwest Congress as an example of the PDP. There were a lot of talk before the Congress. People saying it's not going to be valid, it's not going to be legitimate. People threatening to do this and to do that. But the key thing is what happened on the day. We had the election. There was no litigation after. The complaints were very mild. A lot of it was so childish and simplistic that it couldn't hold ground. The fact that people are complaining does not mean that there's a problem. People will always complain. That's the difference between a Congress where you have people having parallel. I'll just give you an example of what happened in my own ward. The guy that went to the other venue that is not the valid venue, where the ward chairman has chosen, cannot hold ground.
Well, isn't
the fact that it's challenging does not mean that there's a legitimate parallel.
Just one moment, Dr. Pearse. Isn't this the beginning or the foundation of the global or the national challenges that many have ascribed to the PDP? Now, you, of course, are not unaware of the fact that so many people have raised issues. There is a lot of, division, a lot of arguments within the PDP over time, that went as far as the level of the national chairman of the party. Perhaps it's because these little issues that you say are nothing are left unattended to, and then they eventually grow to become
I didn't say they're nothing. But you see, the point is, when people challenge the system, you will now call them back and say, look, what you have done is not acceptable. And they usually fall in line. After our Congress, we which was very competitive, we have started to come back together as a Southwest group. You know? So those who are not going to accept something that has been adjudicated to be legal and legitimate, they have a problem. But that is what you have to deal with in democracy. Some people will disagree. The law must be enforced, that's all.
So, Dr. Pearse, just before we go, does that suggest some of the signs we see pointing to possible Southwest producing the PDP chairman?
Well, it appears to be, because don't forget that the Southwest has never produced a national chairman of the PDP. And I think that things are looking good for Southwest to produce the next Southwest
But looking at the big
national
picture,
chairman.
Just one more thing, looking at that big picture, does the PDP think that if the chairmanship goes to the Southwest, it means that they might zone the presidential candidate to the North? Will Nigerians be happy with that at the end of the day, because you will present your candidates to them?
Look, somebody sent me a message the other day. He said, power must shift to the South. I said, what does that mean? How does power shift in politics, in a democracy? You vote. You vote. So if you cannot win election and you say it must come to you, I don't understand how that can be done, except through by force.
The case it's a big conversation.
Yes.
So let's not go a little further, because it just might keep going. But we do thank you for your time this morning, Dr. Adetokunbo Pearse. Thank you once again for coming on today.